How's your morning voice? You radio ready? Radio ready?
I think so.
So,
Yes. Can you hear me okay? I have the earbud in, but
yeah, sounds lovely. Sounds like you're in a bathroom, but that's fine.
does it?
You're not sitting on a toilet, are you?
No.
So, we're rolling. We're ready to go. And the first thing
Oh,
I want to talk about marriage. You're 2 months in. How's that going?
it's going good. It's going well. It was 10 years in the making. Started prior to COVID, so about 4 years because of all the COVID shutdowns and re-shutdowns and stuff. So amazing, amazing. It was overdue.
You guys had hands down the most amazing wedding I've ever seen in my life. I mean, not just the ceremony and stuff, but the show after it was absolutely crazy. Very fun.
Yeah, I went into a lot of detail in planning all that and coming up with that. No, not really. I have no clue what happened. It was all my wife. She did it all. She pulled it all together. It was amazing. She did an amazing job. It's what she does. So it was great.
Do you remember anything from that night? Or is it a blur?
Most of it was a blur. I think I mentioned to you once before, we picked out the menu of food and all these great foods and appetizers we wanted to eat. And we literally got maybe one or two bites. Never saw the food, never had champagne or a drink. It was nothing. It was between the events and performances and being pulled one direction to another. It was really a blur. It was an amazing blur. I remember all the important things, seeing her, the dress, our dances, and all of that, but all the in-betweens was just like, wow.
Yeah.
Um, and she surprised me with some of the things that were going on. I knew what was going on, but not all the things. So sometimes if you watch the video, you'll see me sitting there and go, what the hell is going on? But in a good way, but it was amazing.
Yeah. And she does that, right? She's a performer of some kind.
Oh, she used to be. She's on it's the Tampa Supreme Showgirls or Vegas Style Showgirls. She has another one that does with impersonators, but she's done that for umpteen years and owned those businesses. She has, the green screen, open air photo booth, 5 minutes of fame photo booth. So she has some of those businesses she does. She hasn't performed in a long time, but of course for the wedding for me and the family, she did, and it was amazing seeing her do her thing and just bring it all together.
Yeah. As soon as we saw the officiant, I said that dude looks like Elvis. Sure enough.
Yes, yes. He's a good friend of hers and does jobs around the country and the world and with her. And he's a friend and he performed the wedding because we knew he'd give a little flavor and then went to his Elvis thing, which was amazing also for the reception.
Yep. So if we fast or rewind back to Ken Marple before Matrix hormones, what were you doing?
More of Matrix hormone stuff.
You were in.
That's been 15, 18, 20 years, something like that. It's always been something like this in another business that I've owned with other people or, going back 15 years working for somebody, being, doctor's assistant, things like that. So this is what I've done. We talked about this before. My journey started probably 20 or so years ago with my testosterone dropping and some thyroid issues and being destroyed, being in general medicine, dealing with specialists and bounce around and they destroyed me. And I talk freely about this. I've talked about these things for so long, made me infertile, killed the testicle. Thank God I have one son who has four great kids. None of my grandkids I love to death, but they totally destroyed me and they were destroying me. And that's when I did my own research, my own testing, and started taking different paths till I found somebody who knew about this. He's long retired. He was older back then. And speaking to him about my case, he's like, "Hey, I need somebody to come in with me," and that's where my journey started many years ago.
That's something researching and it's something that I think is different about Matrix than any other clinic is, there's a text thread going on, right, with all the
Mhm.
specialists. And there is almost daily, if not daily, someone's posting a video link or a research article or something. It doesn't matter if it's Saturday,
Mhm.
Sunday, midnight, it's going on. And you guys are actually watching and reading and constantly talking about and researching and looking for new ways and new methods. And I don't think that happens everywhere. People clock out and they're done.
Yeah, one of us, and it's not even just a specialist. Sometimes other people, um, operational directors, and things like that will drop something in there they find, and we'll kind of feed off of that information. Sometimes we can go a little left on teasing each other too, but it's fun times. It keeps it fun. You've been part of that sometimes.
Definitely. So I've got a handful of TRT community questions for you, and then I've got a couple of what I'm. They should be easy to field women hormone questions for you that are off script, if you don't mind.
Okay.
So
Well, that's my life and my job is off script every day, so go for it.
the first TRT question is injection site bleeding and bruising. How can we avoid it?
Um, well, the first question is what type of syringe are you using and where you're injecting? But for the most part, we like microdosing, which uses insulin style syringe. It could be a 27 gauge by half inch. Some people will use a 31 gauge by 5/16. They'll backfill, which I don't completely agree with, or they just have the patients to stand there and pull it in that small syringe. You really shouldn't have bruising and bleeding. Usually, when I run into that, it's because when somebody hears using an insulin style syringe, they think put it in my stomach. For me, the stomach is usually the worst area to put it. I know it carries the most fat. So you say, well, it makes sense. You have to remember the syringe is just an easy way to inject yourself and not hurt yourself. And it can be in muscle or fat. It doesn't matter. It's going to work primarily the same way. It's about doing smaller injections more infrequently to get the benefits from it. But using the stomach, you can get that knotting and bleeding and bruising. Everybody is different. And when you carry more fat, there's a lot more smaller blood vessels that you can hit there. We usually recommend the upper outer thigh, the side part, nice upper thick part of your thigh. And then also the buttocks, the upper outer, sort of right under the pant line, rolling to the hip. You can also do a shoulder because, once again, this is a small syringe. It's a small amount of liquid. Most men are pulling between 15 and 30, with the average being about 22. So it's a very small amount of liquid that you're putting in also. So it depends on the area. Now, if somebody says, well, I go to do it in my thigh, and per se, if you're getting bleeding, it means you're hitting blood vessels. Maybe you're a person that just has a lot of top area blood vessels, which is difficult to avoid. If you're getting bruising, once again, that usually will come from those blood vessels. If you're getting soreness or lumps under the skin, some people, they just don't absorb it as well. You can then take that syringe and push it down a little bit. So if you take a half inch and you push down a little bit, make a dent or dimple in the skin and the tissue, by pushing down, you're going to make it 5/8. If you push down a little harder, you're literally going to make it 1 inch deep going in there. So I usually say if you're getting the lumping and the soreness, push down, make it go a little deeper. You can massage it afterwards. If you're getting bruising and bleeding, if it's in the stomach, that's a common. I would switch the area. But in general, I'll have somebody who says, "Oh, I hate doing the upper buttocks. It just doesn't work. It's I get this, I get that," and somebody else is like, "Oh, this is perfect." Same thing with the thigh. Just try those different spots. But if you're constantly getting it, um, there could be some people still use the old style inch, inch and a half, 22, 23, 25 gauges. Bless you, but it's not necessary.
Yeah. So would you say that if you're getting the lumping, is that a good indication that the absorption's not going well?
It could be. So there's two things: that your absorption's not going well, or you're pushing it in too fast and you're just a person that takes a little longer to absorb. And the lumping usually comes from, and it's not just testosterone, it can be any product, especially if you put a lot of liquid in one area, pushes out from the tissue and gets trapped between the tissue and the skin, which then can cause that lumping or crystallization of some of the product, where once it crystallizes, you can't absorb it. Your body will reabsorb it, but not in the sense of what you're using it for, medication. The lumps will eventually go away, but you don't get the benefit of that medication.
Gotcha. Um, Completely random question, but if someone were on an oral form of testosterone, like myself currently, I'm experimenting with Kysotrex. I don't feel any different. I was, obviously hoping that I would get less side effects and be able to raise my levels higher. I don't feel any different. I need to do labs, but is it possible to inject a little bit and do an oral, or is that ill advised?
Well, typically, as you know, I don't like orals. The one you're particularly caring about, we both discussed, did research on. And you said, hey, let me give this a try. In the sense of you, I would say yes. To be honest with you, I don't have enough experience because I don't like orals, but I can tell you there's people who inject and do creams.
Yeah.
They like the daily effect where the cream gives them some daily, but not enough to get them over the hump. So then they do their little microdosing with it, a lower dose of them, and they combine the two. So they feel better. Now, could you accomplish that with just doing a daily injection, a microdosing? You could, but some people, even if it's an insulin syringe, they don't like it. So by doing the cream and a little bit of an injection a couple of times a week, it works for them.
Okay. This next one's probably a multi-part question, but gynecomastia, how common is that? I see it talked about a lot, but how often is it actually happening?
So you don't see it very often, to be honest with you. Now, people think if they feel a little something in their nipples, it's gynecomastia. No, because you have a little sensitivity, you can see that. Some, I would say that's more common, but I wouldn't call it common, but more common than gynecomastia. When you first start treatment, you can feel some little things in your nipple area. That does go away. Gynecomastia itself, you don't really see very often. One of the things that I talk about for a lot of different things, it could be gynecomastia. Let me not say an anastrozole. You might fall out of the ceiling on me when you talk about an anastrozole for estrogen blockers. But when you talk about certain things, the other one I see a lot too is finasteride to block DHT. People will say, oh my God, you don't take that product, it's going to kill you, it's going to do this or do that. The fact is, say finasteride. You take that, forget it, it's over, it's ED. Everybody takes it, almost everybody takes it, gets it. No, about 9 to 12% of the people can get it. But as humans, we tend to go online to say, when we're talking social media, our negative experiences. A lot of times we don't talk about positive experiences. So when you look at these things, you might look at something and read about, oh my God, this is the worst medication ever. And I'm not trying to advocate for finasteride or anastrozole or anything like that. I'm just trying to give an example. We try to use anastrozole minimally as much as possible. Same thing with finasteride. It's an as-need basis. And if we can fix the problem and get you off of it, that's the direction we take. But there's guys who've been on it for 20 years, just like women have been on it for 40 years. People are not dropping dead from anastrozole like you would read about every day left and right. You get a lot of that bad feedback sometimes online. And I don't want to say bad feedback. It's just that person had a bad experience and we're more willing to talk about the bad experiences.
Yeah, I think that's especially true in this field because there's even less. A lot of guys don't want to talk about TRT at all, and there's even less people that are touting, singing its praises, and they're only asking their question when they're in trouble and they just have nowhere else to go. So it's a lot of that.
Which then leads into all the other problems, that
Yeah.
all the other people that have those problems. So then you end up with this post that you as a new person might read and go like, oh my God, this is horrible. Because that person brought up his bad experience, which led to other people to bring in their bad experiences. So you have to do a lot of research and see it. But overall, I really don't see gynecomastia a lot. And if you do things properly, even less so. When you see it improperly is when somebody said, well, hey, I was going to this clinic. They started me off at 300 or 400 milligrams of testosterone with 1,000 IUs of HCG and, 2 milligrams of anastrozole to try to counterbalance what they're doing to them with everything else. But it's a mess. And there are some people are sensitive. I like to just throw out, because a lot of people don't know this, and we discussed it before. Everybody thinks gynecomastia, estrogen. They chase that estrogen, even can bottom it out. Why am I still having a problem? Prolactin can also cause gynecomastia. The combination of estrogen and prolactin, if you had one that was, say, high normal by the labs and you were fine, but the other one went up a little high normal, those two together could trigger gynecomastia. So when you look for gyno, I look at estrogens and prolactin to make sure you're not chasing one or bottoming one out for no reason. You get the proper answer.
Is there a genetic component as well?
Yes, just like anything in this, it could be cholesterol, it could be diabetes. Some people are more prone to these things. That's why somebody could take testosterone and none of these things go up, and then somebody else can have DHT, prolactin, testosterone. Estrogens all go up. Same thing with red blood cells, some of that. But then some of it is not just genetics; it's weight. The heavier you are, the more estrogen, whether you're on testosterone or not, the more estrogen you store, it stores in your fat cells, and the more chances you have to have higher estrogen. So if you take something that increases estrogen, of course, you're going to store more. It's like a cycle. So weight, also fat, BMI also plays a factor into it.
Gotcha. Next question. How often would you guess it's necessary to stop TRT to conceive?
I would say most of the time men can't conceive. And there's some men who use testosterone, not even using HCG, and they conceive when they don't want to. Of course, it's possible, but that is not the common. For most of our patients that we've seen and I've experienced over umpteen years, they usually have to stop testosterone therapy, do some type of releasing hormones post cycle. For most guys, also 1 to 4 months, the pregnancy is achieving and they're flipping right back on to testosterone. There's some guys that take 6 months to a year. I had one gentleman who not only was on testosterone for 15 years, had gotten a vasectomy, got remarried, wanted a child, got it reversed. We got him off testosterone. It took about a year and they gave up and did in vitro. And right before starting back on testosterone, she then got pregnant with another child naturally.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, it could
Having
happen at any time.
so she ended up with two kids.
Two kids. So she had the one, and once that baby was done, he's like, okay, he wanted to keep it going to make sure the birth went well. He didn't want to jump back on testosterone. They had that child, right after pregnancy and in vitro. Females are very fertile, and I guess now at that point he was a year, 9 months or so on releasing hormones, and God said it's time. And right after that child, they got pregnant normally by him. That's an extreme case, but for most patients, 1 to 4 months is where you can achieve pregnancy by flipping off. Now, someone can use testosterone, high amounts of HCG, and it could take them 6 months to a year to get pregnant. But if you're looking to get it done quick, just flipping to that protocols, releasing hormone protocols, usually can get it done quickly. But as you know, there's also, did you ever use support for your testicles? How old are you? Are you genetically more prone to your semen shutting down? All of those other variables but go in there, but it's not very common that you see somebody on testosterone and they can achieve pregnancy.
Yeah. What do you got above you there? Is that a battlefield picture?
No, it's not a battlefield
Is
picture.
that Star
It's
Wars?
Mandalorian. I'm a
Yeah.
big Star Wars sci-fi fan.
All
So
you could see was like the dust and the feet. I thought it was a soldier.
yeah, it's in my office. I have a bunch of memorabilia. Mandalorian being one of my favorites. Now that you ratted me out.
So, uh, matrix pricing. What I see in the TRT community all the time,
Mhm.
it's well known that Matrix is the favorite, if not among the top two or three favorite clinics. Somebody will post something. Where should I treat? 100 people go in there and say Matrix, and then somebody will inevitably come in and say Matrix is too expensive. And I think, the way that the pricing is broken down is a little bit different than a lot of clinics do. So walk me through what I'm going to spend with Matrix, and how it's not really any more or less than any other clinic out there. They're all pretty close.
This comes up often. We have a little bit of a different system of doing stuff. And it's funny when I break it down to people, they're like, oh, okay. So first of all, nobody is perfect, but we try to excel on customer service and patient medical care. We really take the time, we explain things, we go through things. We're always there for the patients to the best of our ability. Not a lot of places can say that, whether they're cheaper, the same price, or more money. But the initial sign up for a patient, male patient, for hormone therapy, if there's no specials or anything going on after, say, your TRT community discount, is $100. So that first appointment to review the lab, which for most guys take 30 to 45 minutes, closer to 45 for most, to review those labs. We want to thoroughly have you understand the process in the beginning. Sometimes it can even take an hour. So that first appointment is $100. That includes, all the time to set you up and get the things going. From there, it depends on what you need, and you're buying. We are kind of an a la carte. You buy what you need when you need it, and you stop when you want to. Um, so if you're buying a bottle of testosterone, that bottle of testosterone out the door is say about 250 roughly. So when we break down prices, we learned a while back that we had to break it down monthly because people see these monthly programs. Oh my God, you're so expensive. They're paying $99 a month. for their bottle of testosterone, whether they're on 100 milligrams or 200 milligrams, they're paying the same price. So we started breaking things down monthly for people to show, depending on what that strength is and what it breaks down monthly, breaks down to 75 to about $95 a month. We're actually cheaper than the guy that says I'm $99 a month for your testosterone. The sign up is usually a little cheaper than most of those places up there. They're usually 150 to 200 for their initial sign up, or we're 100. As well as going forward, they do usually will give you at least one free appointment a year at those other businesses. We do charge $35, but like I said, we are much more thorough. And I for someone one time, I ran all these different scenarios, different businesses, different pricing. We literally came out sometimes cheaper, the same amount, or the second year cheaper, or if we were more, it could be $50 to $100 in a year's time.
Yeah.
Now, granted, somebody could say, "Well, I spend X amount of money with, matrix hormones," but sometimes they forget to say they're buying the stuff that's not necessary: peptides, weight loss products,
And that stuff
B12.
can get expensive anywhere, and that's not
Mhm.
included in the $99 specials that you'll find elsewhere. You
Mhm.
pay extra for that stuff.
And like I said, one of the biggest things people have to think about with that is there's, whether you're 100 milligrams or 200 milligrams, you're paying $99 for
Yeah.
that testosterone. So either way, if you're under 200 milligrams, you're paying less with us across the board. If you're at 200 milligrams, it's roughly the same or slightly cheaper.
If you're that 100 milligram guy, that one vial is lasting you 5 months. That means that
Mhm.
just a little over 2 times a year, you're spending your treatment's $500 a year, basically.
Mhm.
A couple of appointments and labs in there if you're insurance done.
Mhm. Yeah, with a lot of these other businesses, $99 a month. It ain't gonna change on what you're using.
Yep. I hit a wall after 4 weeks on TRT. What should I do? See this one a lot.
Whoever's treating you, they should let you know 4 weeks on TRT doesn't mean anything. It's way too soon. Hitting a wall, there is no wall at 4 weeks. You're just starting. The journey, we usually tell from, yes, you get people who are lucky in the first month to 3 months. They're just flying high like Superman. For most guys, we tell them it's 3 to 6 months. You can feel ups and downs. You can have some new symptoms. You can have some go away, some get better. But hitting a wall at 4 weeks, there's no such thing. But I also don't want to discount. I don't know what this person is doing. Are they being treated properly? How much are they taking? Are they being balanced properly? When's their next appointment? So those are things that the patient should have been informed already, which I feel like if they were informed properly, they wouldn't be asking, I've hit a wall in 4 weeks. What do I do? That's way, way too soon. We usually wait 7 to 8 weeks to retest you to get a viable number. And that's still that number that we have. It might not be 100% of what your levels are going to be on that amount of testosterone. How quick did your body shut down? Where were your original levels? How well are you absorbing the testosterone? How quickly are you going up? There's so many, many factors there. But yeah, 4 weeks if you're worried about hitting a wall at 4 weeks, I don't want to say there's not something wrong with your treatment, but most of the time it's just too early. When you first start taking those shots, or however he's taking it, it stacks on your natural testosterone. You typically will have a boost and then it stops. Some people will go backwards because the natural testosterone will drop quicker and they'll go backwards and feel bad. And then you slowly start moving forward again. So frequently, that honeymoon period that we refer to it as is he probably got some boost from the testosterone stacking on his natural testosterone. It dropped some. He feels now, I've hit a wall at 4 weeks. We haven't even made it to the wall. You're still in the parking lot and you got a long walk ahead of you.
But labs eventually, right, is the best
I,
indication.
I, yeah, if he was having an actual side effect or issue, I would say move up your labs earlier. Otherwise, I usually say 7 to 8 weeks to see the potential of what that strength of testosterone you're on, as well as your body shutting down to try to get an accurate number of where you're at and how you're feeling.
Yeah. So podcast listener, forum member, Matrix patient Pete sent me this voice memo like, gosh, a month ago. I want to play it and see if you'll address it. It's like a minute long.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Brandon, this is Pete from the TRT.
Well, let me switch this audio source. Didn't anticipate playing it, but now that we're here, might as well.
from the TRT community forum. Hey, I'm just throwing out a topic idea because it's something I'm suffering from pretty heavily right now, and it's a lack of sleep and how it's affecting my TRT. I hate to say the word journey, but it's a temporary thing. I'm just overworked and have too many things going on, and it's killing my sleep. And it feels like I feel worse than I did before I started TRT and before I started using a CPAP some 20 some years ago. So anyhow, I don't know. Might be a topic idea, and I think you may have done one in the past, but I'm so rummy dummy right now. I can't think. But anyhow, I just noticed the send a voicemail message.
All right, we don't need to hear all that chit chat. He's rummy dummy. I love that dude. He is hilarious, and so well written and spoken. But basically, what he's saying, and to clarify, he's not saying that he feels worse in general. He's saying that he is more tired, more fatigued now. What do you think?
Multiple parts. He did identify himself, stress, work, and other things that he feels is affecting it. What I'd like to point out is, and there's a lot of research on it, testosterone is part of our sleep cycle, which a lot of other things, vitamin D, B12, even estrogen, is part of our sleep cycle. So it is very important. One of the things you have to think about, though, is he mentioned he was on a CPAP, which means he has sleep apnea. For about 35% of the patients, when you start taking testosterone, it can aggravate that sleep apnea. So let's just say you are a mild to moderate case, you take the testosterone. Yeah, testosterone would help you with sleep, but it could aggravate that sleep apnea and make it now moderate to extreme. I usually recommend after starting and being on testosterone a while, if you've noticed a sleep issue, is seeing your doctor to recheck and retest to make sure your CPAP doesn't need to be adjusted, because the testosterone could have aggravated that issue. That doesn't mean stop taking testosterone on if you have sleep apnea. It just means making adjustments to that, because the testosterone has a lot of benefits for sleep itself and other things. Some people who will start taking testosterone who have not been diagnosed with sleep apnea, once again, mild issue, didn't bother them too much, or they didn't realize it, and now the testosterone can aggravate it more. Throw on top of that, if he is more stressed and working more and he's identifying that that's kind of when it started too, that definitely could just be the issue. You do want to then say, well, yeah, I'm treating my testosterone, but now all of this other stuff happened. Maybe I need to check my adrenals too, and which can DHEA and cortisol and things like that can affect you. The other problem is then when you don't sleep well, it definitely 100% affects cortisol. Cortisol produces overnight. HGH produces overnight. So there's other things you could start throwing off with this issue, no matter what started it. But my advice to him would be, to the best of his ability, to avoid the triggers that it's not interfering with his sleep.
What is
see his job or whatever it may be, and then also see his primary to make adjustments to make sure the CPAP is adjusted correctly, and then just double check all of his levels, but also some other levels if he hasn't checked them, adrenals and things like that, to balance it out and start to try to track it down. There's, even though he gave information, for us, or for me especially, I would have started questioning him. And I know sometimes me and you talk and you probably feel like you're in the courtroom and you're being cross-examined, but it's like he gave information, but there's so many more questions I could ask to lead me down different things. And that's why the other gentleman, like you were saying here, Wall at a month, I didn't want to just give you this general, no, there's plenty of time left. He's early on, because maybe he's only treating with once a month shot, once every 2 weeks. I don't have all of these questions that I would normally answer or ask to get the answers to give a proper evaluation. But that's definitely where I would start with this gentleman with the information I have.
CPAPs are tricky too. And what I've noticed is, if I'm congested and I have to go from the nose mask to the full face mask, it's not going to work as well for me. Or if my mask is a couple months old and it's not as it's I don't know, it doesn't seal as well, it's not going to work as well for me. And then the work thing, that's a hard one.
Yeah.
It's the harder it is to seal up. And then the work thing, like I was just talking to you guys about myonestetol. I don't know how to say it. And got no benefit from that. I don't have any trouble falling asleep, but I do have trouble staying asleep. I didn't see any benefit from that, but Sean mentioned the extended release melatonin, and I haven't tried that yet. But what I'm able to do is reflect back, and it's like, okay, that 2 month period of time where I was waking up at 3 o'clock every morning and staying awake for the rest of the day, I was trapped in this cave here working, nonstop, and wasn't doing anything physical. And then, the next 6 weeks I'm sleeping like a baby, but it's because I'm outside. It's summer, I'm getting sun, I'm doing yard work, I'm getting the RV ready for trips. I'm physically exerting myself, and I'm sleeping better as a result of it. So there's something to that for me, that when I'm in work mode, I sleep like crap always, but when I'm not, I sleep really well. So maybe that could be part of the work thing too.
It definitely could. That's why I said there's so many factors that you have to question your way through with somebody. But that would be the start of it. And sometimes people do need assistance with medications to sleep. I usually say start with the nutrapharmaceuticals like you did. It could be melatonin, instant melatonin. We have a nutrapharmaceutical company. We sell this one product, Insomnitol, that's a mixture of those. It doesn't have the time release, but sometimes I've added a time release melatonin in extra with it. So there's all these different products that you can try and take to use to help with sleep. The last thing you want to do is go to the Ambiens and things like that, because long term they can affect your sleep cycle. If I tell somebody, if you're going to take it, don't take it every night. Take a couple of times a week, spread it out, get yourself a good night of sleep, try to get some rest. But taking it on a regular basis, it will change your sleep pattern, and you probably will be dependent on it, besides some of the other side effects that can come with it. Also sleepwalking. You never sleepwalk in your life. Start sleepwalking. House is on fire. Didn't wake up.
Yeah.
So something emergency, you got to get up and get going. When you first take it, first at the beginning of the night, you're probably not going to be very coherent. So
I can't even handle NyQuil and wake up if something happens in the middle of the night, let alone, I've never tried Ambien, but NyQuil knocks me out.
And a lot of people will use these different things. One of the really popular ones is Benadryl. Benadryl's safe, been around forever. They've actually found that it'll affect your long-term memory when you take Benadryl on a long-term basis. Some other issues too, but that's the main one that concerned me, was long-term memory being affected. And there's these other over-the-counter ones. Benadryl is just one. There's several of them that can do that. There's one product that sometimes we'll use called Vistaril, that was originally created in the 60s. It was a decongestant. They made it as a antihistamine, but it just wasn't very effective as antihistamine. But they noticed it made people very calm and sleepy. It's still used today. It's used for anxiety, panic attacks, helping with sleep, and it's so safe that they actually will give it to you prior to anesthesia, which they don't want to give you anything when you're going on anesthesia if somebody has a lot of anxiety or panicking, to calm you down. I tell people taking it on a regular basis can maybe help you feel calmer every day, but you lose the effect of sleep. Once again, that's one of those things. If you had to go to a medication, two of the side effects are dry mouth and sleepiness. You can get grogginess in the morning. Some people take a little while to get going. It doesn't knock you out. It calms you if you're a person that's waking up because a lot of OCD or random thoughts. It can help with that. Very inexpensive medication that you can buy. GoodRx, I think it's like $10, $15 for a 3-month supply. So when we have to, sometimes we'll use that when we can identify an issue, the patient is really struggling, as well as we've used all the natural resources, because once again, non-controlled, non-habit forming, no impact on long and short-term memory, very few to no side effects. The one that I would probably say is people say they still feel groggy in the morning for 2-3 hours.
Yeah. Semaglutide, what is it? What does it cost?
Semaglutide is a generic version of Ozempic, originally created for diabetes, pre-diabetes, insulin resistance, and things like that. They found it then helps you lose weight. It slows down the intestines. So when you slow down the intestines, you don't absorb as much as that fat and calories. It works on, I don't want to get too into medical, scientific, a GLP. Everybody hears, oh, it's a GLP-1 receptor. Yes, it does. And there's another one called Tarzipatide, which is the generic for Mounjaro that works on one and two. But basically, the simple description of it, it slows down the intestines and makes you feel full quicker, helps cut back the appetite, but it helps block the absorption of a lot of the food. So even if you eat some, you're blocking some. Some of the side effects, nausea, bloating, heartburn, anti-acid, and also constipation are some of the common ones. You can get fatigue from it, but sometimes the fatigue is you're not eating enough. You're losing nutrients, nutrient deficiency, or just not enough food. Very effective product, very safe. Some of the side effects you do have to counterbalance with anti-nausea medicine or some other medication. That one is go slow and steady. I know you'll talk to people and say, oh, I took that first 2 weeks, I lost 20 pounds. Yes, it's possible. But then some people, that medication, when it came out in the research, it tells you expect several weeks or months to start picking up weight because you have to, or losing weight because you have to titrate up on it. Of course, we found you can titrate up a little quicker. We tell patients, there's a titration that comes on your prescription of how you do it, but you can go slower, faster, depending on your side effects, as well as your weight loss. And it's been a great product. It's really been they called it a game changer, and it took me a while. I believe it over this last couple of years. It is a game changer, and they're coming out with more that are even more effective out there. Very effective product. It's usually, so here's another big thing. Everywhere you'll see once a week, small insulin style injection in the stomach. They're now coming out with research, and we've already started identifying it. Taking it twice a week can be more effective. It has a 7-day half-life, but it's very similar. We're finding now the testosterone. They first said, oh, it's a 7-day half-life, sort of sits there and then drops off 50% after 7 days. In actuality, like testosterone, the first 2 days, maybe into the third, it spikes up, then it comes down and plateaus off, and then it drops 50%. So some patients will say they get more side effects in the beginning because of that high spike. And then some say towards the end of the week, they're feeling hungry again or having those cravings. So we're finding more and more and starting to kind of tell our patients that have side effects or there's the end of the week issues, you just take it twice a week, split up your dose and do it Monday or Thursday. And we're seeing good results. Not everybody has to do that, just like to stop. Some people take it once a week and it's terrific, but there is the option to take it twice a week and it could help with some of the issues you're having. As far as price, it's all over the place because of the size bottle you get, how many milligrams. If you're on a higher amount of units, you want to get a larger bottle. It could be as low for a 3-month supply as $450, depending on your dosing, all the way up to $900, depending on your higher dosing. That is a product you can stay on long term. It is a product that you can then titrate back down and go to a maintenance dose. Some people, they lost the weight, they're done, get off of it, they titrate down and they're done. Other people are like, I don't want to sit here like a nun and exercise all day with this food. Can I stay on a low maintenance dose to now maintain it easily and have a life? Sure you can. It is very good for keeping the glucose down and insulin levels, which, as we already know from metformin for the last 15 years, metformin is used for anti-aging. Why? Keeps the insulin levels down, and glucose, which ages quicker and health and stuff. So this product works in a very similar way they're looking at it. And just as a side note, they're finding more and more about this medication. Besides weight loss and diabetes, it was made for using it for PCOS. Once again, insulin level PCOS, life-changing for some people with PCOS. They've also found for alcoholism, they're testing it. They found with alcoholism, a lot of people, they just didn't want to drink anymore. They didn't have the craving, so they're looking at it for that. They've found it now for certain drug addictions they're testing it for. But a big one that came out, and I can't remember if it was Eli, there was a big research that came out with a company that makes a medication for liver disease, non-alcoholic damage liver diseases. And they had a medication that had a roughly 45 to 50% success rate in saving you and saving your liver. When they mixed it with semaglutide, 87%. And they feel they're in the next 2 years, they're going to be able to completely eliminate death from liver disease, non-alcoholic or accidental, disease with the combination of these two products as they go on to perfect it. It was a huge article, a lot of research on it. So this product just keeps coming out with more and more uses.
Wow, that's crazy. That stat.
We're talking a lot. I got you going today, but one thing I want to throw in, because one of the biggest things I hear is, oh my God, I looked up and that's a black box product, or it could cause thyroid cancer. Don't take it if you had thyroid cancer, or it could cause it. They only ever found it in rats. They've never found it in a human. And it's a certain C cell thyroid cancer that particular cell is only found in rats. It's not in humans. But out of precautions and liabilities, they had to do that. And everybody knows how I feel about FDA and certain government entities. You can have these other products that literally, as part of the advertising, is it could kill you, but it's not a black box or red box product. This is a weight loss product now. It's not just diabetes. A lot of agencies, government agencies, do not like weight loss products, just like testosterone and other things. So it is a black box product. It says, if you have thyroid cancer, don't use it. Possibly could cause thyroid cancer. But if you really look at it, look at the data, only in rats. It's never been seen in human or been able to be duplicated in humans. And the type of C cell it is only in the rat. We don't have that particular cell.
What's the difference between the black box product and something that just has that listed as a side effect?
Well, they consider it to be so dangerous that they're going to list it. And there's even some certain allergy type medicines and different medications that get these, and there's for a reason. So when they do a black box, it's usually when you look at a medication, they list the side effects, and then it says unknown incidents. They've seen it so many times in humans. Hey, we're going to put this label on it because we can't prove it. We don't know why, but here it all is. Which is surprising because semaglutide doesn't have that. But I think part of the process of getting it approved for weight loss is they had to put it on there. But I wanted to clarify that to your community and just to patients. Do the research. Only ever seen it in rats. That certain C cell, those cells are only in rats. But out of a overabundance of caution and to get this product approved for weight loss, I believe that's why it was labeled as a black box on it.
What about Tesofensine? What is that? Is that new? What's it do?
It's been around for a while. Some people will say it works as an antidepressant also, which it can be. It does suppress hunger. It works a little differently than phentermine, where phentermine will suppress the chemical in your brain to tell you that part of your brain to tell you you're hungry. It works a little different on serotonin and dopamine and these things like that. To help suppress your appetite. Now, there is research and data that also will indicate it can also help in the lines of diabetes and things like that. But once again, these are off labels, just like semaglutide, it's off label use for weight loss. This product, you start moving into these off label things. But you could consider it, it's considered anti-aging, can help with diabetes and of course, weight loss, enhance mood and things like that. It is a capsule that you take daily. Some people say, oh, it's a capsule. It has to be less expensive. No, some of these medications are not expensive. They can be about the same price as semaglutide. It's been around for a while as far as effectiveness with some people, extremely life-changing and effective. And then you're just like with semaglutide. Some people this didn't work at all. Semaglutide, I would say for 85% of the patients it work, 15% or so just doesn't work, just like any medication, or doesn't work well. Same thing with this medication. It just never grew in popularity like semaglutide did. And it just doesn't overall, I feel, has had as much of an impact on weight loss as semaglutide. People are always looking for that silver bullet. It's a good product, but just like anything, it's specific to individual people. Now, it's more and more making its way to the market is a daily semaglutide capsule that you can take. And they're finding that the capsule could have even more weight loss effect and be more effective. And I think part of that goes back to, they haven't said it or proved it yet, goes back to the shot is once a week. Some people do better with twice a week. Now you're putting something in your body daily. Now they'll say, well, you're going to lose some of the absorption with that capsule. You do. It's offset. It's almost as expensive as the injection because the way they have to make it and how much they have to put in there to offset it. Some people say, well, you're putting it through your gut. There's more chance to give you side effects. Side effects were about the same. Weight loss was about the same. I would say what I heard most about it is the consistency of the week of how somebody felt, rather than having a spike in the beginning with side effects and then drop off with appetite, having larger appetite towards the end.
What about semaglutide and metformin together? Is that safe to do? Or is there even a reason?
You could. I don't recommend trying to mix those, because if one is effective, stick to one, because you use two, it's going to affect you and it could make you hypoglycemic, where your levels, insulin or glucose levels, go too low. Even people who need higher amounts of semaglutide, it's a low risk of it, but it can happen. Some people, that number can get too low on them. Mixing those two, I just don't think is a good idea. Some people say, well, I'm not taking metformin for the insulin factors of it, or I'm not taking it for the weight loss. It's because of the anti-aging properties. The anti-aging properties is it keeps your insulin and glucose low, and the way it interacts, insulin interacts with your cells, which is insulin resistance. Semaglutide will do the same things. It's not as researched on the insulin resistance because the way it affects with the cells, but a lot of people don't realize is you can eat no sugar and carbs, but you eat like crap and you have high cholesterol. Cholesterol affects the way insulin deals with the cell, and you can be insulin resistant and have a low glucose and low HA1C. So cholesterol plays a part in it too. So there's a lot of different factors that come in play. Tesofensine also, by the way, has some impact on cholesterol also, which that feeds back into the whole insulin and diabetes part also. How much it does varies patient to patient. It's not one of those products that I tell you, oh, you take this and it's going to be great with all of these. It's very patient specific.
Gotcha. So Kinsey's a listener of the show. He's a patient of Matrix. He's been on the show. He came on, he had a terrible time finding somebody to treat him, stumbled upon the podcast, came on, told us his story, hooked up with you guys. He's got some questions about female hormones. So his first question, this one seems pretty basic. Can a total lack of a woman's hormones from a complete hysterectomy at the age of 35 cause weight gain?
At any age.
Yeah.
Any age that you just totally lose your hormones absolutely will slow down the metabolism, besides all the other symptoms we know about, and can cause weight gain. Absolutely.
What about affecting anxiety? His wife has a hard time doing, activities of daily living like driving.
Yes, we see that all the time. Low testosterone, low estrogens, imbalances can cause anxiety, cause severe depression. We've had patients who they just kept, take these antidepressants, take these anti-anxieties. They either chose not to, they got hormone balance, completely went away or greatly improved. We have some people who were taking the medications that were able to stop, or they were able to greatly reduce the medication and they felt much better when they balanced out the hormones. I would say for the majority, not all, of course, different people, different things, they do see an improvement in all of that.
So his wife specifically is a breast cancer survivor. It was an estrogen positive tumor. Is that something that scares you away from TRT, or would you be able to help her?
Slow and steady, keeping it on lower levels, just enough in her body to keep her balanced. Because the bottom line is, it was estrogen based, but how high was their estrogens? Naturally, she could have been out of balance. Also, estrone, which is 3 to 6 times more aggressive. Your estrogen based, cancer, and yet they've never tested for estrone, which could still be causing a problem. But with that, it can be a concern. It's slow and steady, keeping them on the bottom level. But this is the same thing I say, guys, and I say about women. Oh, it's estrogen based. You can never have estrogen in your body again, or testosterone. That is not true. Women are based on estrogen. Men are based on testosterone. We both need a little bit of the opposite hormone. Without it, estrogen low in women, leading cause of osteoporosis, the breakdown of the skin, vaginal dryness, vaginal atrophy, depression, and all the symptoms you can look up at low estrogen will hit. It will usually shorten your life, just like a man with low testosterone will shorten our life, besides the quality of life. But yes, you have to be very careful, go slow and steady, make sure you have the proper balance of progesterone, your counterbalances for it. You're using bioidentical products and things like that. But it's about monitoring it, keeping it balanced. And instead of where you can say, well, a female can be 50 to 250 throughout the month in estrogen when they fluctuate, you do want to keep this patient more on the bottom side. You want to make sure you monitor that estrone, the more aggressive one, that we're not having spikes or that's going up. So It is treatable. It's just a little more challenging, a little more where you have to look at the patient more and more lab work, more follow-ups and things like that.
And as we know, with the history of cancer, she's probably getting a slew of testing done every so often, right, to monitor for things anyway. So I would think that that would be beneficial for her as well.
Yeah, so the testing she's getting normally with her oncologist or a specialist, and then the testing along, say if she was with a clinic like Matrix, the other testing that we would do, monitoring, making sure everything is in balance. You'd be very surprised, and it can be a lot of different things we talk about. You're gonna like, oh, they're seeing their specialist. Let me take a look at your lab work. Half the stuff that should be in there is not in there. So it does come up.
Yep. Tell me about the Matrix Summer Sale. What you got going on?
Uh, Ashley's a better person to ask about that, but I'm gonna fake it till I make it here. No, it's that we have a big summer sale, just like we have the Black Friday sale. We usually do if you're buying 1, 2, or 3 items, 10, 15, or 20%. It can be the same item. So if you're looking to stock up, or like most people, when they buy a peptide, they buy a 3-month supply. So that qualifies you for the 20%. And it includes all the peptides or most of the peptides, weight loss products, things like that. Semaglutides on there, tirzepatide, B12s, the lipos, the carnitines. So all of those products are on there. And like I said, it's if you buy 1, 2, or 3, get you to 10, 15, or 20%. You do have to mention it. It's not something that's a default. We run these through our pharmacies, and when we set them up because of our buying power, they give us a certain amount of time to run these specials. Because some people say, well, I bought it 2 days before, refund me. I can't, because the pharmacy charged me the full price at that time. Or if you missed it by a day, they're like, this is your window, you have to buy it there. If you don't, that's it. We usually get the confirmation from them literally 3 to 5 days prior to the sale happening. So it's a great sale. You can save a lot of money, especially if you're buying, certain products you can stock up on. Big ticket items like semaglutide and peptides, saving 10 to 20% could be very substantial.
Be $500.
Yeah, it definitely can. Especially we have couples. We have a lot of couples that are using the medication, so they really rack up big savings, because then they can kind of mix and match. They're using a lot of the same things. He might not need this right now. She might not need that, but they'll place one order and get substantial savings.
Make it simple. Make sure that they get their orders in on time. If anyone texts TRT to 66866, I'll be sure to send the order form link out to you. So just make it easy and quick.
We have the online, if you go to matrixhormones.com, we have the refill button. If you haven't been a patient, you can still take advantage of this sale. If you to sign up for something like the weight loss and the vitamins, and you can talk to this, it's very much more streamlined and easy for them to do. And it has till the end of the day, Friday the 7th at 5 p.m. To do this, of July 7th. They can easily get signed up through the system and place the order. But, with our patients, we urge them to do the refill. That's the most secure way, quickest way, easiest way to track it. But, some patients still email, call, portal message, text you. However, we'll take the order.
Yep. Yeah. The onboarding for the weight loss is super easy. Most patients in most cases are within an hour. They're finishing their onboarding and their orders placed from start to finish. It's simple.
Yeah, it's really getting more streamlined. We're trying to make it as efficient as possible, as easy as possible. We've been getting the feedback from the patients, and also just time. Some people are like, hey, it's easy, just change that. Oh, there's a domino effect there. So there's a lot of different things that we're working on in the background right now to make this as easy and painless as possible for patients, make it as efficient as possible. We've made some changes on if you have prior lab work, how much lab work you had, when did you have it done, to just make it as easy and as affordable to patients as possible.
Yep. Love it. That's all I got. You got anything?
No, you have the winning lotto numbers?
No, of course not. I think has those.
No, I just want to say we talk and we joke all the time, and we're intermixed with so many things. But for myself and yourself, I know not only for your community, but for Matrix Hormones, we just appreciate your community so much. But we also just appreciate the patients, and we appreciate the feedback. And like I said, we're not perfect. Things happen, and we try to learn from them. We try to make it better. And we are very popular. We're very busy, and we try to do it without making a huge impact on care where, oh, we're making this change for the better, but we're slowed down. The only other thing is pharmacies. All pharmacies across the board have slowed down. There used to be, 1 to 3 days turnaround time since semaglutide has come in. They make tons of money off semaglutide. They make it a priority. They can't keep up. In fact, we, received something from one pharmacy today saying we're going to be on back order in semaglutide because we can't keep up on that, let alone the regular orders. So we've seen a lot of that across the board, and it's just not us. It's just everybody where they've slowed down, and sometimes it's 2 weeks, 3 weeks for deliveries, which is just insane. They're trying to catch up, but as soon as they catch up, they fall behind. But it is slowly getting better, and we hope it goes back to where it was, 8-12 months ago, where the delivery times are much quicker again.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Bye.
Awesome.